Good morning, everyone. It's Dr. Arlene Diamco, the MultiDimensional MD. Thank you for joining me for episode 109, Creating Hope When You Don't Know What to Do. My mission is to help bring the intuitive aspects of health back to medicine in practical and tangible ways so that you can access deeper healing. And this week, the reason I wanted to talk about creating hope is because I've had multiple situations where people have asked me if I felt that there was any hope for them. They felt like they had tried so many things and they were really getting kind of down and feeling like things were hopeless. And so I wanted to talk about hope and how you can access that for deeper healing for yourself. So I'm going to go through 5 keys, and I'm going to start with the definition of hope and understanding what that is. So, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the word hope is defined as a desire accompanied by anticipation or expectation. So, that's kind of interesting. It's just that it's you have a certain desire and you are expecting or have the confidence in the anticipation of that desire or the dream unfolding. I would like to add a caveat that you may or may not know how it will work out. But true hope will be that you have this hope and this confidence that things will work out according to the universe, according to the oneness. So you may or may not know what that's going to look like. One of my favorite definitions and descriptions of hope comes from Neil Donald Walsh's book, Home with God, which is part of the Conversation with God series. And he writes that hope is a statement of your highest desire. It is the announcement of your grandest dream. Hope is thought made divine. So I love to say that to myself and repeat that, especially that last line. Hope is thought made divine because it helps me shift my thoughts into what would the oneness think? What would the universe that's always encouraging and loving, what would that think through me? And that is what hope is. The vibration of the word hope, in terms of what I feel, it connects the heart and the mind. So it's that hope is thought made divine. So you can see that it's connecting heart center, your soul, that love from your heart with the thoughts. And it's all kind of coming in through the divine. So this is your heart center, your soul coming out and expressing through the thoughts. And that's what hope is. Um, I remember years ago when my cousin was in a coma from a car accident, and my dad, who is a physician, he had asked me because he had spoken to the intensive care unit physician, and the ICU physician was not very hopeful. Said that this was a really dire situation, weren't really sure if he was going to make it out of it. And my aunt had asked my dad to tell him, to explain to her what the ICU physician said in terms of they had, a doctor to doctor communication. And my dad called me and told me what the ICU physician said. And he asked me, what should I say? What should I say to his parents, my aunt and uncle? And I paused for a moment and I said, whatever you do, you can't take away hope because we don't yet know what's going to happen. And if there's even a small chance that he'll make it through this, then don't take away that hope. And so he didn't. He didn't say that there was nothing to do. There was, this was going to be hopeless and he probably wouldn't be able to communicate or come out of it, or who knows, he wouldn't be normal. Well, some weeks later, he did come out of the coma. And to the surprise of all the physicians that were caring for him. He had all his mental faculties intact. He was testing higher than average, and he's completely normal in terms of, like, checking physical health, and and, um, and he looked great, he could think, he had his memory, he didn't have the memory of the accident, but his cognitive skills were completely intact. It was a miracle, and so there's always hope. You don't know how things will unfold. So, the next key, number 2 would be, and people ask me this all the time, like, "What can I do?" Or, "Do you think I will get better?" Or, "How fast do you think I will get better? Will it take a long time?" And I tell them, "Well, it may take a long time. I'm not sure how things will unfold. Um, it doesn't have to take a long time, so it may or may not." And one of the biggest keys that I see in determining how efficiently things unfold in terms of what they feel is making progress is this willingness to have a different kind of courage. So, this is not the traditional courage that people think of, where you have to barrel through and um, and be really rigid to be strong. This is the courage to be gentle, kind, and non-judgmental to yourself. It's the courage to see all of you, the quote, good parts and the shadow parts, because those shadow parts are just untapped gifts. But in order to access them, you have to be willing to see them, to look at them. So that's a very different kind of courage. Gentleness, patience, kindness, non judgmental to yourself. So the more that you can be that for you, then the more healing can come through. And I see this consistently with so many patients that I've seen over the years. So if you have that willingness to have this different kind of courage, then you open up so much for yourself. The third key is to see the wiggle room. So often, people can have chronic symptoms, meaning they've been going on for a long time. But if you start to tease it apart, there's some subtle variation. There might be big variation to the symptoms or even a very subtle variation of the symptoms. Sometimes the symptoms are worse than other times. So if someone's in pain, sometimes the pain is worse at some moments than other moments. So if there is any kind of variation, then there is wiggle room there. And that wiggle room is hope. So it's about stepping into that wiggle room, because bumps in the road are inevitable. And so, um, whether there's small annoyances or huge roadblocks, we all have our moments of frustration, and me and my family included. And I remember once there was a big blow up with lots of yelling and crying at our house. And the good things, I don't even remember what it was about. So, in the big scheme of things, it was probably something minor. But the best thing was what my oldest said afterwards. She said, "Funny, sometimes in the worst moments, you realize how thankful you are. So you realize, oh, the other times weren't even as bad." Like it was in that sinking into the arguments and this difficult moment that she looked up and saw that, oh, actually, there's so much to be thankful for. So there's hope there. When there's that wiggle room, there's hope there. There's hope that you can step into those lighter moments, the moments where the symptoms are less, and it's those everyday things in our lives too. Sometimes some things may seem mundane until they're gone, and then you realize that you missed them, and you're thankful for whatever that moment was, even though it was a difficult moment. I think about this, like, after my dad had passed, I missed all the moments. So even the moments when he was sad or in the moments we might have had an argument, I missed all of them. So when he crossed over, then I realized too, I was like, gosh, there was even more to be thankful for than I realized when I was going through it. So it's like these storms in our life are trying to wake us up. And a constant storm is a reminder. It can be sometimes a gentle reminder and sometimes an intense reminder. It's really trying to hit the nail on the head for us to look at things in a different way. And that can be so hard because the ego can be very stubborn. So that takes us to the fourth key, which is to release the goal of how you think healing will unfold. And I touched on this in the beginning with the definition. So, releasing your goals of how you think healing will unfold can be so hard. The ego mind really tries to keep you boxed into the pain, even of the known. So, you ask your mind to consider a different way. The mind often thinks that healing means trying as hard as possible. And so many people have this mindset. And I had this before too, is if I work harder and try harder, then I'll get whatever I want. But there if you're doing that and having and if you're seeing that you've been trying really hard and you don't feel that you're making the shifts that you'd like, then ask your mind to consider a different way. Where's the path of ease? And so that path of ease is non-resistance. It's acceptance of your whole self as you are now because you're worthy of love no matter what you've been through, what you've done, what you've said. No matter what, everyone is worthy of love, and you are, of course, worthy of your own self-love, and so that's the courage to give yourself that, to be kind and gentle and non-judgmental of yourself, and letting your life guide you. So this is that releasing the goal of how you think healing will unfold. Let your life guide you. Let the symptoms guide you too. So your symptoms are always your body's way of communicating with you. So much of the time, illness will tell us to rest, to go inward, to listen to ourselves, to stop looking outside for the answers that are within. And, sometimes we can get really upset because illness makes us feel like we're missing out on things in the outside of getting together with other people. And that makes us feel sad or down that we're missing others. But if you listen to how could that illness be helping you? And so much of the time it's guiding you inwards. So you're not distracted by the outside world. You're not distracted by other people's thoughts or how they think you should be. It's you being able to listen to yourself and release that goal of how you think you should be and spend more time listening and getting to know yourself. Um, Again, including those good parts and the shadow parts. So, the willingness to see all of you and the willingness to let the go of the goal of how you think you should be. And it does take that quiet and stillness to do that. And a lot of times, being sick will bring that for us, whether we want it or not. Somehow it's helping us. And that can be really hard to see it that way. But it's seeing that wiggle room, and that's where the hope is. Of like how, even though it seems impossible at first, when you're really struggling, it's like, how in some way could this be guiding me? And again, it's looking inward and seeing yourself. And the fifth key is to talk to people that have been through something similar and made it through and are thriving now. So they didn't just survive, but they're thriving. And my friend Janet Wallace Smith, I had interviewed her on episode 32 of the MultiDimensional MD. She shared so much wisdom that she had gleaned over the years from her journey with multiple sclerosis. And then she interviewed over a couple dozen people with multiple sclerosis and asked them too what sorts of things that they had learned and what had helped them along their way. And so she came up with three keys. and we touched on some of them before, but she had 3 points, and, this was, like, universal from all the people she had talked to and what she had felt from her for herself. So, the first of that was to get to know yourself, which we've been talking about the whole time. The second was take care of yourself, so that's the being kind to yourself. So, when you're kicking yourself for not feeling well, what would be the kind thing to do? What would be the kind way to be for yourself? And the third point she made was be your authentic self. So that can be difficult when there's so much that we feel from society and the culture, our families, our friends, um, of what the way we should be. And it's a way that your soul would like to express into the world. And so it does take sitting with yourself and being quiet with yourself to listen and to get to know all of that within you. And the more you get to know yourself, the more access you have to healing, because that healing always comes from within. So I hope that helped you in some way. And if you have any questions about this, please send me a message, leave a comment. You can contact me through my website, allworldshealth.com. And you could sign up for my e-love letters there. I send them out once a week on Wednesdays. And you can also find me on Instagram at All Worlds Health, on Facebook, All Worlds Health and Pediatrics. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I would love to hear from you. And let me know if there's anything else that you would like me to talk about. I'd love to do that as well. So have a great rest of your week. Lots of love to you. And I believe in you. So I hope that you believe in you too. It's Dr. Arlene Diamco, the Multidimensional MD.